What's up guys, it's Punchy, and today we have a pretty great Deepwoken patch with a large focus on balancing. So a few general ideas have been tackled and changed, and we'll see how this changes up the current state of PvP meta, and I guess, the PvE game as well. But first, let's start with content. Now we have the final Wisp mantra, which is the Thunder Wisp. This mantra looks really cool, and the effect is more interesting than you'd expect, and I think it will be fun to play around with. So, on Successful Flourish, if you have the Wisp up, you apply a status called Sapping to a target. If this target casts a mantra or has a mantra on cooldown during the sapping effect, the duration of their cooldown increases, preventing them from using that mantra much more than you'd expect. So it doesn't really negate things, it just increases the duration of their cooldown. I think this is really creative and pretty fun. Another cool relic that was added is the Moon's Eye Tome. I was able to pick this up in Hell mode, and that's pretty sweet. So by interacting with this tome, you absorb information. Essentially, it maxes out your knowledge at 99, and that is really cool. Also, based off the poll this week, Fishman has been reworked into something a little bit better to use, and instead of passive regen in the water, which is very boring, you can now drown targets in the water by pressing B. This also stacks with all of the grip talents. Further upon this, you get increased heals from knocking people in the water, and it's now an aggressive option that you can use instead of just running away. Last week, another topic of discussion was focused around the idea of smart mobs, which is monster AI that seems to adapt to players' movements, and by doing this, it makes fights more interesting. It seems to me like we've taken another step in the right direction with a really fun PvE change that might, switch up how you approach interactions like this entirely. According to this new update, humanoid mobs will circle players. Stuff like bandits, guards, anything humanoid will change their attack patterns and movement just to throw off the player and make it more interesting. A secondary addition, humanoid mobs, they usually hang back with the group, they wait, will be more aggressive, applying pressure to the player while again shifting their position and making it more fun. In theory, this should allow for more dynamic PvE gameplay that is more interesting, more difficult, and I can't wait to see what happens next. Onto some PvP balancing, let's talk about that. So a large topic of concern with the community is how tempo performs in current day combat. Players vent frequently to save themselves out of combos, and it's pretty damn annoying to deal with, I'm not gonna lie. Of course, I believe that vents are positive for this game, but we shouldn't really be spamming them. A fairly new change was implemented that increased the cooldown between tempo gain on critical attacks. So previously this cooldown was 0.1 seconds, but now it's 0.5, so there should be less tempo from multi-hitting crits. So once you hit a crit attack, you have 0.5 seconds before gaining tempo from that crit again. Another very popular talent was touched called Elemental Rebound, and now it provides less tempo based on hitting moves. So we'll see how these changes affect combat, but having less tempo could be positive for PvP interaction. Uppercuts as a system have also been updated, at least their hitboxes have been, so all hitboxes for uppercuts should be similar, but spears and heavy will maintain their different ranges, and this should be better for things like dagger uppercuts and those without range. After this, we have more specific adjustments, including Frost Draw. So one problematic mantra, which is Frost Grab, has finally been hit with a much needed hitbox nerf. Instead of having a fat horizontal hitbox, it should be toned down and a little bit easier to fight against. Another Frost Draw mantra, probably the best Frost mantra, Ice Cubes, was also changed, adding a slight wind up on each cube before it fires, and upon this, a particle and sound should now play when firing a cube. I say this is great because this mantra used to be unpredictable, but now counterplay is an option. Another interesting change that many seem to talk about was the reduced judgment stun after hitting a player with this move. Usually if you hit somebody with this mantra, even if they vent, they'll be in something called hard stun, which is unreactable, but it's been removed entirely after escaping this move, and that is good because if I vent, I don't want to be stuck there. That's all for right now, but there's so much more to explore in this update, but make sure to like and subscribe and tell me what you think. Thank you guys so much. It's punchin' time.